Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be about my reading journal that I made. I got all of my ideas from Ellie's Corner. I will link her YouTube video below. I'm a big reader and I have, just like Ellie said in her YouTube video, I start and stop so many different reading journals, and I really needed to make something that was fit for how I want to use it. And her ideas in her video are really all that I've been wanting in a reading journal, which is interesting, right? Because we all have such different needs for something like a journal, but her ideas were amazing. And so what I did was I went in and I watched her video and I made a couple of notes about some different things that she talked about, and I implemented them in my notebook. One of the things that she said was she used something she already had on hand. She had a 2023 Weeks Mega that she had never used, and so she decided to put that to use. And she covered up the dates on some of the pages and then decided it doesn't really matter if the dates are on there. She ended up leaving them on because it was too time consuming for her, but you'll see that in her video if you watch it, which you really should. It's a really great informative video. So what I chose to do was I used something on hand. At first, what I did was I was looking, I posted something on Instagram to see if anybody had a week's size planner that they were maybe looking to get rid of. And then I remembered I had cut down I had cut down a composition book that I had bought at Walmart. So they have a really heavy duty, like a plastic cover, poly, well, it says it's poly, a poly cover, so poly plastic. So what I had done was I used a metal ruler and a really sharp box cutter knife, and I had cut one of these grid ones down. So they come in lined, but they also come in dot and they come in grid. And what I had done was I cut down one of the grid notebooks. And I did this a few weeks ago. Probably a solid month ago now. These are from Walmart. It's the Pen and Gear brand. What I had thought that I was going to do was I was going to cut one of these down and not buy a Hobo Weeks for 2023 and use one of these, which is a huge money saver, but at the same time, I discovered that I really wanted to use a Weeks. I used a Weeks this year. This is my first year using one, and I've really fallen in love with the Tomoe River paper. I've fallen in love with the layout of this planner, and I really wanted to have one for 2023. So I did end up purchasing one. So I had cut this down and just never used it. So what I decided to do was use it, because we all have a ton of stuff. So 2023 is going to be about using my stash. So I had these clear covers. They're Hobo Weeks covers. They're Hobonichi covers for the Hobo Weeks. And my friend Stacy had sent me these. So I slipped a piece of beautiful paper that my friend Kristen had printed and sent to me. So I slipped that in here. I put a Midori belt snap on it so that I can throw this in my bag, like if we go on vacation or if I'm going on a long car ride that my husband is driving. So I can throw this in my bag along with my book and have it all contained. So I'm going to go through, after you watch Ellie's video, you'll see why I set mine up the way that I did. I pretty much set it up almost exactly like she did. I have a few things that might be a little bit different, but let me get into the video and then you'll get to see how I did it. So in the very beginning, I wrote out how I am going to rate my books between 1 and 5 stars. And I can do a half star in between here. Excuse me. I can do a half star in between here if I wanted to. But I just wrote down the 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 stars for now. This little sticker I got in some Happy Mail from a friend. Unfortunately, I don't know where it's from, but that's where that's from. I'm learning how to letter, so my hand lettering is not fantastic. So let's get on to the meat and potatoes of this. So I went into Pinterest and what I did was I looked up book ratings and book rating ideas. And so I got these ideas and kind of made them a little bit more personal to what they are for me. But the Pinterest page was Delicious Reads. So if you want to go in and you want to look at Pinterest and you want to get your own ideas, that's great. Or you can even use my ideas. It doesn't really matter to me. So 1 star is how did this book get published? Which I don't know about you, but typically when I start a book that I don't like, I just reshelf it or I give it away. It's not important to me to start a book and absolutely finish it if I don't enjoy it. For me, reading is about quiet time and me time, and I'm not going to spend my quiet time or my me time on a book that I don't enjoy. So if I give a book 1 star, it probably is a DNF. It's a did not finish. So I probably should add that on here. DNF. I think Ellie said something about that also, about how she doesn't waste her time on a book that she doesn't like. So 2 is a meh. I might forget I picked this up. So I might finish it because it's a book that maybe was recommended to me and I really wanted to read it, or it's a popular book. So that's the 2 stars for me. 3 is it was a solid book. Glad I read it, but whatever. 4 stars is loved it, gave me all the feels. 5 stars is it was an awesome read, serious book hangover. I don't know about you, but when I'm done a book, sometimes that book hangover is so true. So I tabbed it out like Ellie did on hers. I have 4 tabs in mine. My first tab, so I left a couple of pages blank in between in case I want to add something. I had I put away all of my scrapbooking things up in my attic, and I remembered that I had some rub-ons. So I had these 2 different ones. I have this one and I had this one, but these ones are white. So I decided to use these. I really like the vintage look to them. So they're from Art Warehouse. I don't know if they still sell these or if Art Warehouse is still a thing. These are probably pretty old. But what I did was I wrote down all the alphabet so that I can write in my authors alphabetically. Another idea from Ellie that I really enjoyed, which was a great idea, because sometimes I forget the authors that I have started, that I've maybe read one of their books and I can't remember what the book is, but if I had written the author down, then I'd be able to find that easily. So I literally just went through and I didn't skip any pages because I'll start here, move over here. And there's so much room in here for me to be able to write down authors. Like Ellie says in her video, this is a long-term planner. This isn't just something I'm going to use up in a year. I'm an avid reader, but I'm not so fast that I'm going to be able to fill this up in a year. So this is a long-term thing for me that I'll be able to shelf. And then I have other composition books that if I've enjoyed this sort of layout, I'll be able to make another one again. So like I said, I went through the whole alphabet. Yes, there is a D in here. Went through the whole alphabet, laid that all out. Okay. So then I'll be able to go in, and I actually wrote in my last book that I just read by Alice Hoffman. There'll be more detail about that book further into this video. So that's how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to write the author's name and be done with that. It's super simple. And then this next tab is my TBR, my to be read area. So I can write down books that I want to read. So if someone gives me a recommendation, I can write that in here. What I did was I left 8 pages for that, because sometimes my TBR gets pretty big. Even though this space right here is pretty big to be able to use maybe 1 or 2 lines, I wanted to make sure that if I'm using this long term, then I have plenty of space to be able to go in and write more authors with their books. And then we go to series of books that are to be read. I left 8 pages for that. And what I did on my tabs was I have these Avery tabs right here. I just covered them with a strip of washi. I got all this really pretty washi from some Happy Mail from a friend online, and I just covered the tab with the washi, and then I cut it into 3. So that's where those 3 tabs come from. And then this big one is just literally one of these. So again, I left 8 pages for that. And then this is where I will write my reviews. So this is my first review that I wrote. I gave it 4.5 stars. So the book that I read was Practical Magic by Alice Hoffman. I wrote down the main characters and then a tiny little blurb about the book. This book is also a book club book, so I should add that in here. And I'll do that now. I started a book club on Patreon. So it's a woman, Carolyn Park. I've been following her for years on Instagram. She used to have her own planner shop, and she has since closed that down, and she is now a life coach. And she also does a podcast on Patreon, and she does a book club on Patreon. So I subscribe to her Patreon, and I love her podcast, and I also love her book club. I will try to remember to leave a link down in the description about that also. I'm so bad about leaving links. So if I ever say that I'm going to leave a link and I don't, please comment on it so that I can make sure that I add that in. But anyways, this is my super simple reading journal. And it's not cut right. It's like a little bit wonky. Some of the pages are sticking out. I didn't trim it very well, but it's mine. I made it. I fully made this whole thing, sure, with some wonderful ideas from Ellie's Corners YouTube, but I fully made this book totally my own, and I'm actually really in love with this. So I hope that you have fun making your own reading journal, and if you do, add your YouTube down into the comments, or maybe add a link to your Instagram or your Facebook so that I can look at yours and I can follow you. I would love that. So if you liked what you saw, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe. Thanks.